It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Oh, let's review.
We'll analyze the scene.
Sounds holly jolly to me.
Before it's over, let's begin.
Bum.
Bum.
That's right, folks. Since the Christmas season is upon us, we thought the way to celebrate and get into the holiday spirit would be with some holiday reviews.
Well, to be exact, decoratively divided into 4 categories for your Yuletide pleasure.
So, without further ado, silver up those bells, light the multicolored lights, and go out and build a snowman. And join us as we get into some seasonal shenanigans. Night Dragon, we are at our penultimate installment. What category are we unwrapping?
Sequels.
Sequels. And we will be talking about Snow 2 Brain Freeze.
Yeah!
A film so popular that even on YouTube, where it's uploaded completely for free, it has 59 views.
Yeah?
All right, I'm sorry, Dragon. I don't want to say we're scraping the bottom of the barrel on this one. We're certainly not, but we are certainly scraping the edges of pop culture relevance here. Like this is one I doubt. Like I really doubt 10% of our subscriber base has ever heard of or is aware that this movie exists. So, don't be surprised to see that this is probably going to be the lowest rated of the seasonal shenanigans episodes. I'm really kind of I don't want to doom this in that way, but I don't really think this is get a ton of viewership. But you know what, Dragon? Snow, the original Snow, was one of our favorite seasonal shenanigans picks just because not only did it have the great Tom Kavanaugh facing off against Patrick Fabian, reverse Flash versus Howard Hamlin, but it was also just a nice, really heartwarming, really heartfelt take on the new Santa Claus mythos, kind of reinventing the wheel that is Santa Claus, if you will. And here we get to Snow 2, Dragon, and just to sum up my thesis on this movie, I have amnesia! Dragon, I'm sorry, I'm not wild about 75% of this movie. I'm like, this movie had potential, and with the Howard Hamlin stuff, it really does live up to it. I think Patrick Fabian is by far the most fun part of this movie, for sure. And I think in some ways it's a little bit better than the original. But man, the amnesia plot, Dragon, I'm sorry. It was a big, big roadblock for me to overcome. It was just like, why are we doing this? And why is it taking up so much time? And it was, I don't know, man. It was just kind of frustrating. Like I feel like that was sort of the big Achilles heel of this whole movie. It kind of stopped it dead in its tracks. Maybe if the amnesia plotline would have been resolved closer to the second act rather than the third act, might have sat a little better with me. But as it stands, Dragon, the first movie just set such a good precedent for the two lead characters to really be together and interact well and bounce off well with each other. And I don't know. To me, it was just kind of an act of sort of frustration watching a whole movie where we have to build back up to that chemistry that we already established in the first movie. So I'm not loving this, man, and I'm not looking forward to this conversation because I know this is a personal favorite of yours. So we're just gonna have to grit our teeth and go through this.
Right, and while we're doing that, TK, we're having the image thing from a while back again. You might have to like reshare the image because right now it's not shown. Well, anyway, so while I give my piece, you work through that.
Okay.
Okay. So I love the first Snow movie, and that's the main kind of that's the main love I have for it. It's not like an all time favorite, but it's definitely like when I got into the first Snow. I remember last year, in fact, I was geeking. I was asking Tiki permission, like, "Hey, do you mind if I watch the second one? Because I just love this one so much." And yeah, I mean, I just it's Tom Cavanaugh, and again, Snow was just it was such, again, it was a unique thing. It was kind of in that "'Twas the Night" vein of like just kind of one of those TV Christmas movies, and I just kind of happened upon, and then I watched it like once and like bits and pieces of it once it was coming on TV. Then of course I get into the Flash and everything. Then I kind of like see Snow come on again. I put two and two together, like, oh my god, it's him! It's Tom Kavanaugh! Oh my god! And then of course, a year later, Better Call Saul. It's 2015. It's like, oh my god, it's Patrick Fabian. So again, so again, you put two and two together, you get a big kick out of it. So it's again like for me, I've loved Tom Cavanaugh in The Flash, and again I just came across Snow, and after putting two and two together, I'm just so delighted by the first movie, and just kind of this take again. Basically the first movie is nothing but pleasantries, and it worked somehow. And that's the thing, like it wasn't a perfect movie, but again it had it's like one of those positive seasonal movies you've ever darn seen, and I couldn't get enough of it. And I gotta tell you, the sequel's not perfect, but by the same token, but also I just had such a great time with it. A great time with the sequel, and I was at war with the amnesia thing, but I gotta tell you, that's the thing. It kind of won me over, like the first movie won me over in a way, Tiki, where the amnesia plot line was, again, gave me like an uh-oh sensation when I was watching the movie. And I was like, oh no, they're doing the amnesia plot line. Oh no, it's Harry Osborn as a Christmas special. Oh
That's
no.
exactly kind of the vibe I got, Dragon.
But I tell you, Tiki, and I still feel this way, and this is where I'm still at on now, reevaluating it, is that yes, it's an amnesia plot line. I won't deny how, again, right now it spells doom when you say that instantly. I get it. I really do. But here's the thing. I think just, again, it's that positive and just kind of like, I think they did the impossible, at least in my opinion. I think they kind of did the impossible. They made the amnesia plotline palatable. I think they made it, that didn't get in the way of the story that much. Again, I think you get enough of Sandy and Nick there at the start of it, and they get to re-fall in love all over again, but it doesn't feel like the same story that was in the first one. I don't know. But again, it's like Sandy's in the role instead. But we'll get there when we get there. On the whole, despite kind of like spitting in its own eye to a degree with the amnesia plotline, I still think it turned out to be a really kind of fun movie. So again, I still got a lot of love for.
I feel like that's a good distinction to make, because I do agree with you. This is definitely a fun movie, whereas I feel like Snow, the original movie, is a heartfelt movie. You know what I mean? I think that's the line I kind of draw.
It is, and the one thing just out front here I just want to say is that I think Snow, I think the sequel here it kind of boils down with the first one. The first one's like throwing things at a wall and seeing what sticks. And when they do a second one here, I think they've directly narrowed it down to like, okay, our franchise is really about three characters and a reindeer. It's Nick, Sandy, Buck, and Buddy the reindeers. It's kind of what it boils down to. So looking at it that way, I think that's like the one thing I can give it over the first one in retrospect, is that we don't have like the kind of the cutesy kid neighbor and everything. We don't quite have that. I mean, don't get me wrong. We have
another cutesy kid in this one.
We do, but it's not like we don't. They keep it minimal, and I don't know if that. I don't really think that hurts to hear that we minimize the kid, because again, the kid didn't hurt the original movie. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead to things. So it's just the overall thesis. I like the sequel. Okay.
All right, background, Dragon, hit us.
Background, not a lot. Like the first movie, not a lot known about the ABC TV movies. This was part of the 25 Days of Christmas. I believe that's still the case. It's still on Freeform, both movies. So again, that's good for them. This was made 4 years after the first one. So again, this movie is really much like it feels like a reunion movie in many respects, and I really appreciate that. It's like it's 4 years later, and they're kind of coming back with another story that I guess they didn't expect to do in the first go around. The director was Mark Rossmann. Now, Mark Rossmann is known for directing Life Size, a few episodes of Even Stevens, a few episodes of Lizzie McGuire, and he directed the Cinderella story, the movie with Hilary Duff and the Cinderella role, the updated.
Oh, okay, right.
Again, it's not a bad movie. It's not great, but it's like it's for kids. It's all cutesy.
Anyway, I would say that movie is a palatable movie.
That's the thing. The Cinderella story was like, I remember when it first was like coming out, it was like, hey, that's on Hilary Duff. Hey, let me check that out. It was like, okay, that was fine, I guess. It was like a fine, I guess movie. That's what it was. Let's see. The writer was Rich Burns. He had currently he's doing a few Netflix shows. He's doing he's writing the Spirit show on Netflix and the She-Ra show on Netflix. Which again, I can't stand the Spirit movie, so I can't really understand why it gets the show on Netflix. But all the seasonal power to him. Good for Rich Burns.
You really got it out for that Spirit show, man.
But still, the She-Ra though, good for She-Ra, and I like the animation style on that. So points for Rich Burns. He's keeping busy. Good for him. And interestingly, he was something else. He was a Disney sequel guy for many years as well. Rich Burns. He worked on the prequel for The Little Mermaid, not the sequel with the whole Ursula's got their sisters. Not
Ursula's crazy sister.
Not that one. The prequel, which I heard the prequel was I heard.
Which is like fucking 4 stars in Disney sequel terms.
Yes, and Brother Bear 2. So couldn't be any worse than the first Brother Bear. So anyway, so let's see. And of course, just again, we have Kavanaugh and Fabian back in the fray again. So they got everybody, all the main cast have returned for the movie. And that's about it with the background.
All right, hit us with the plot.
Okay, here's the plot. So Nick Snowden. Nick is preoccupied 3 days before Christmas. He's dealing with the widespread and growing problem of overweight reindeer, which is a problem. He is distracted from his lovely wife Sandy, who wants to spend Christmas together before the big day. The two have a very pleasant argument. And Sandy has big news that she does not get to share because of said pleasant argument. Again, very pleasant. I want to emphasize that. So then Nick travels via a mirror. He hits his head, which begins an amnesia plot. So as Nick makes a new friend in a young street rat by the name of Ryan, Sandy is on a rescue mission to find Nick, fix his memory, and save Christmas. Meanwhile, Buck returns and plots to steal Christmas, literally. Leading to Nick, Sandy, and Henry, a friend of Nick's parents, throwing a Christmas party to get Nick to believe again, to believe that he is in fact Santa Claus, to get everything back on track, return the memory, etc., etc. Nick regains his magic, foils Buck, and gets the thumbs up from Santa Poppy, if you will.
God.
And Sandy reveals that they're having a baby. Aw, and that's the movie.
All right. So I guess in terms of characters, we will start with Nick.
Yeah.
I will say this much: they do kind of the overworked spouse archetype around Christmas time rather well with him, because it's very understandable that he would be overworked around this time of year.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, so Nick in this film, so yeah, I think Kavanaugh on the whole is bringing the Kavanaugh charm, which he really does, and I think that really helps these movies a lot. And I think it helps kind of any weak spots. I think at least in the first one, definitely you can overlook most of the weak spots in the first movie because of the charisma of your main cast.
Mm-hmm.
And here, I think most of that's channeled into the amnesia plot for me with Nick here. So to me, Nick, even without his memories. He's still, even without the memories, of being Santa. Again, I just think that charm still remains, and we see him as friendly and adaptable in this new situation. It's kind of like, I guess it's kind of like when Kermit the Frog got amnesia in Muppets Take Manhattan to a degree. It's kind of like that. He's not becoming a businessman, but it's like it's just he's adaptable. He's just kind of doing his thing there. Only he's not kind of laughing in Miss Piggy's face about it, if you will. So. What's neat, and again, the thing that I think still remains true is that, again, even with amnesia, he's bringing about Christmas in a smaller scale way. In doing so, he's reintroduced to his roots. It's kind of his reward for just kind of still being a nice guy. Again, he's basically strangers come to him, and he kind of makes these strangers better just by kind of being around them, and kind of he fixes up the Caribou Club. He kind of gets the kid on the straight and narrow, and without trying, he's not making a mission about it. He just kind of does. And his reward for all of this, for again, just kind of still being kind of the seasonal jolly guy is he gets the approval from his father, and he himself becomes a father. It's kind of the quote Superman. It's kind of the son becomes the father becomes the son. Which, to harken back to the first movie, the best scene that Tiki and I love in the first movie, where he tells like the legend of Santa Claus, the origin of Santa Claus. You know, the whole like it was basically a Beauty and the Beast thing. His ancestor was a mean miser around Christmas who was cursed by a sorcerer, by a wizard, and and he basically became jolly because he was forced to give away gifts every year on Christmas, and over time basically became Santa Claus and was passed down from father to son, and vice versa. So here it's kind of so again it's kind of that self-fulfilling prophecy come true with Nick. Now he's passing it down to presumably his son, again his child or what for, and in the end he gets to have a simple Christmas, and he can enjoy it, and again along the way gets to re-fall in love with his lovely wife all over again. Isn't that nice?
It's kind of like the Shrek Forever After plot line.
Yes, but again, a lot. I don't know. I think a lot more clean cut and kind of happy-go-lucky, though.
I mean, yeah, you're right, Dragon. I feel like Kavanaugh just kind of is on cruise control with his charm in this movie, and that's not a bad thing. I feel like in the hands of a lesser lead actor, the amnesia plot line would sort of go down the tube, but Kavanaugh does make it work.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So Sandy.
Yes. So I really like the role reversal with Sandy. That's the main thing I guess the kind of the plot kind of allows for, that we switch roles, and now again the whole first movie is kind of getting to a point where he has to convince her, and now for the she's really I love how proactive she is in saving Christmas and her husband. Again she's not just saving like a stranger, she's saving like the husband's like all of that growth is still there on her end, and she's just trying to kind of
yeah, you're right. I do feel like she kind of I do feel like she is kind of the main crux of the plot line going forward and moving ahead, in spite of the amnesia plot line. So you're right about that. She does carry most of the plot weight on her back.
And everything that we built up with her in the first movie, I still feel she gets to grow a great deal, and it's I love that we get to see at the start of things, like when the two of them are, when Nick is getting ready for Christmas. We see how in tune with the holiday and the love for and the love for it all that they kind of share there. Where she's decorating the place. We see again, we don't know all the ins and outs, like what is happening now. She's moved up to the North Pole and everything. So you see she's gotten acclimated. She's kind of things have been cozy. Now she's just trying to kind of like take some tension off the guy around the holidays by having like a little mini Christmas before he goes out for the big one. And again, he's busy, so again, it's kind of it's a no bad guy situation in a way, which is very refreshing. It's not like an escape clause thing where it's like, oh boy, he's awfully distracted, and he's not realizing it, but he's Santa Claus. I can't get mad at
him. Right.
It's not one of those things where it's like, I mean, yeah, he's just I can't get mad at him. But again, they're both excellent, valid points, But I'm not. I like that she doesn't completely fall for Buck's ruse, but by the same token, she does fall for it a little bit at the start. But it's more like he's changed, and again, being as jolly as again being living up in the North Pole with Santa Claus, I imagine you would be a little bit more forgiving of people. So I kind of buy it through that venue,
Yeah, I mean, I always get the impression that she's just kind of like leading Buck along, and she just kind of just needs him for his tracking skills when she does interact with him.
Yeah.
She does a convincing job of it, where it's just like, when Buck's just, oh, hey, Sandy, why don't you come to my place? You can take the bed and I'll take the couch. Oh, Buck, that's so nice of you. No, but that's so nice of you.
Yeah. So we see again, like I like the underlying motivation. I kind of call it by the start of it. I wasn't entirely sure, but I think like the news she was going to share, I think we all kind of knew was going to be like she was with child, and it's kind of one of her main kind of sparks of like why she has to find Nick. It's kind of like a Hellboy 2 thing almost. It's kind of like the Liz Sherman arc in Hellboy 2 to an extent, less kind of nice.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, the main conflict is, it's kind of a tie to family and home life versus work, and again, she's not in the importance of anything. Just she's all about maintaining balance, and I think by the end, especially after all she goes through, they find a way of maintaining balance, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
All right.
Okay, Buck. Buck is a lot of fun, man. I mean, they kind of take what's sort of a side, slightly antagonistic character and make him full on Looney Tunes.
So that's Tiki, let me tell you. So a big reason I was excited about Snow, I remember telling you this around the first one. I The main reason I was so jazzed out of my mind to see Snow 2 was the fact that I was just like looking through the credits or something and said Patrick Fabian had returned, because I would assume why in their right minds would they bring back kind of like the villain from the first movie, and just like it amused me to know when, like, oh my god, they went out of their way to bring back the villain who really, if you're gonna like there's no logistical reason why we'd bring this guy back, and they brought him back and he was delightfully mad.
Uh-huh.
That's the thing. It was just like so absurd to me. Like, again, don't get me wrong. I mean, the Buck, again, he's got delusions of grandeur already with the whole hunting lodge, and I think it was okay. We have like our generic. Again, generic. I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just saying that's what he was. He was just kind of the generic bad guy in the first one, and now he's it's like, oh my god, now he's getting revenge. It sounds like such a recipe for disaster, but again, it works.
Yeah, he's grinchiness to him. He literally steals Christmas. He's definitely got some creeper vibes to him at the same time with the way he interacts with Sandy, which is kind of interesting and entertaining.
Yep. I also like the fun fact that, again, it's 4 years later, so he looks a little older, and of course, when Fabian looks a little older, it looks more like Hamlin.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of even more funny and stuff. That's on a personal level, I guess. But I mean, Buck the character, again, is just based on delusions of grandeur as a big game hunter, foiled in the first movie. Just like he's just been grizzled and embittered, and he's just been looking, opportunity. Basically, the guy's an opportunist now. Opportunity strikes for revenge on Nick and a chance to steal Sandy, which everybody in their right mind knows that'll never happen. He's never going to win her over. He's again, so his big, okay, so that doesn't work out for him. So okay, now I'm going to steal Christmas, and he's just going to basically get a big payday for himself to rebuild himself up from the first movie. Which, if you want to get all analytical and philosophical about it, here's how you can look into it. He's trying to find himself like Nick, only in a more malicious way. Nick is trying to recapture who he is throughout the course of the film, and Sandy, by proxy, is trying to get that for Nick, kind of bring him back to who he was. And the grander scheme for Nick is he's trying to reconnect with his roots, his parents, all that story there. And Buck is kind of doing it through duplicitous means. So if you want to be all heady about it, you can look at it that way. But yeah, his desperation definitely. I think desperation definitely drives his Buck's mind here, and it kind of leads to we see how desperation drives a desperate man. I think it can be the main lesson. It's a dangerous thing when you're driven by desperation. I think it's the main lesson to take away from Buck here.
All right.
All right. Let's talk Henry May.
All right, Dragon, I got to admit, this plot line was maybe it was fine. It was just, it felt maybe a little bit too overly convoluted. Like, all right, now we've got this secret society who's in on the Santa thing, and I don't know. It felt a little bit messy in the real building department.
I won't lie that it's the Henry stuff. I think most of my problems in the movie do stem from Henry, but again, I say problems in a loose sense. Most of the things that
he's a fine character and performed well. I just feel like the problems are sort of like around him. You know what I mean? They're kind of like in his orbit, but he's not the problem himself.
Like, I'm not crazy about his family on the whole. Like his, I really don't like, and it's so hilarious given our constant like Hamlin references. But his grandson's name is Gustavo.
God.
So just little, that was just kind of funny. Anyway, but yeah, Henry is a character. He's a man. He's a man lacking purpose since the Caribou Club closed, and I guess the idea is, after I presume it closed after the passing of Nick's parents. That's my assumption. Again, that I think you're speaking to something that's true about the movie. The the world building to me starts to get cracks in it when we don't explain certain things, and I think that's what Henry's attached to here, because the Caribou Club in itself is pretty straightforward. That okay, they want to reopen the club to achieve a goal. It's pretty straightforward. The problem is we don't quite know like why they closed down. Why is he still own this club? Like those are the things that are kind of lacking.
Exactly.
So, but again, so you're not wrong. We are missing some stuff there. And again, there's a question like, how much do you want to explain things? How much do you not want to explain things? Like again, the bare minimum's there, but it still is there's definitely something lacking. Like if you really question it, then you're going to start realizing you don't have all the answers. So yeah, definitely an issue there. But I like that he's he was helping Santa Claus celebrate Christmas in style. That's essentially what his role in the plot is. He's kind of helping them achieve the small, intimate Christmas. So that's kind of a good kind of helper goal for him there. And in the grand scope of things, he helps Nick learn to balance family and rediscover his past, or rediscover himself via his past. So again, I love that. That's the main takeaway of Henry for me. That he's the connection to Nick's past that he's kind of lacking. Because Nick is a character that we've set up ever since the first movie. Is that Nick is a guy who's unsure of himself and his grand family legacy. He doesn't want to be the first guy in his family to botch up Christmas. That's his main thing.
Right.
And again, Henry's kind of like he's looking for that reassurance. And again, by Henry kind of helping him just kind of get on the right path, that's kind of the reward that Henry helped facilitate. So that's kind of nice. And I guess Henry's reward in the grand scheme of things is a little weird, and we'll get to that. But Henry's reward is that he's kind of reinvigorated, he's basically reinvigorated, refining his own purpose of like, I run the Caribou Club again. Like I brought it back, and I brought it back, but also he recaptures his youth in that sense as well as adopting the kid. So speaking of that, let's talk about the kid. Let's talk about Ryan.
Okay, my theory on Ryan Dragon is that he's actually Louie from We're Back, a dinosaur story. In some alternate universe, there's a We're Back Christmas Carol, and Louie kind of got sucked through some sort of like alternate dimension vortex and just ended up in this movie.
Now you bring that up, it makes me want. No, it's impossible. Never mind. I was thinking for a moment, could it be him? Because again, this movie, the mind games this movie plays, and I was like, wait a minute.
Tell me I'm not wrong though. Tell me, like, this character is through and through. Like, it's like they just dropped a live action Louie from We're Back, a dinosaur story into the.
Iggy, let me tell you this. All right, so I wasn't thinking that, but I knew when I was watching there's an air of familiarity, and now you bring it up. I kind of see I've seen that type of kid before, and now you bring that up. Yep. I think that Louie might be what I was searching for. I think it cracked the code. For a moment, I was wondering, could it be him? I was like, no, I came in the 90s.
That's really all I got. Like, the kid's like a street kid. He's kind of a brat. He's a non-believer. He's got the annoying Brooklyn accent. It's, I don't know, man. He's like vaguely homeless.
Yes.
There's a lot of similarities there.
So with Ryan, again, I don't think, here's the thing, the kid characters in the Snow movies have never been offensive, but they always feel like, yeah, they're a cliche we have to roll with. We have to have the kid sidekick in there. But again, they've never hurt the story. And I still feel that here. I just feel Ryan's not developed enough. That's the thing. I feel he's again, it'll do the job, but it's kind of like it's like the Caribou Club effect. It's like the whole, we're missing some stuff. Ryan, here's what I feel like they're saying. I feel like they're saying, he's the cynical street kid who sees Christmas as more like an opportunist holiday than is more of an opportunity than a holiday. Like people, you can fleece people around the holidays. Nick turns him into a believer, not through forcing it down his throat or anything, but just by showing him it's basically he's shown kindness by strangers, and that kind of changes his tune on the whole thing. Like Nick, Sandy, and Henry show him great kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he kind of brings youth into the May household because they adopt him, which again is a little out of nowhere, but we'll get there. And again, he's kind of. I'm reading into this, and I was reading into this because we're kind of lacking some stuff here. I wonder if the broader intention originally was you have an opportunist like Buck in the form of this kid, and again, it's like the question of like on his own he might become a guy like Buck Seeger. in the future. But thanks to Nick's influence, he's kind of more down the straight and narrow. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm reading into it. Probably am. So
I mean, I could see that, but I just feel like the script in general is a little half-baked, and maybe if they would have gone through another draft or two, they could have outlined that more if that was the case.
sure. Again, I don't think any evidence really supports that. I'm just saying, like, yeah, well, again, I'm just reading off of, like the connecting dots with characters. But yeah, sure. All right.
Okay.
Let's talk Galfred.
Galfred, yeah.
Kind of a mix of Gal Friday meets Alfred.
I know, right?
That has got to be the inspiration for that. At the very least, it's Gal Friday, but as like a man, that's at the very least that has to be what they're doing.
So yeah, he's basically the keeper of the Santa mythos, and I like it, Dragon. They do something very, very, very similar with a character on Star vs. Forces of Evil, and that was just kind of distracting for me, in all honesty. I'm like, hey, look, it's Glossaric.
Yeah.
But on his own, he's a fine new addition. He kind of rounds out the mythology of the Santa mythos well. I like that he's kind of like the Google search bar for, kind of like the all-knowing, like, Siri for all things Santa, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just kind of the helpful entity. He's kind of Mr. Exposition, but with personality, and he helps save the day via a loophole. The whole like, well, I told him how to work the parking brake before I told him how. I see basically trip fuck up at the end of the day. Help save the day.
Uh-huh.
All right. Okay.
All right. Finally, the parents.
Yeah, just real quick. What did you think of him?
I mean, I thought it was a clever little loophole in the plot, and I like their designs. Again, it's kind of an unconventional Santa and Mrs. Claus, but the Snow franchise is all about unconventional. I like how the father does bear more of a resemblance to Santa than Nick does.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's about it. It's just a nice kind of saying goodbye scene. It's nothing too over the top. It's just kind of a cameo. Nice to see him.
It is. Yeah. It's just again they do make a good first impression. It's kind of like it feels like classic Santa, and again, it's like classic enough. Yeah, we're never on the topic. I mean, so rarely do we ever go about the topic of Santa having children or having a family. Again, I'm gonna say it's never been done because you have Arthur Christmas and you have got Arthur Christmas and the Santa Claus. I think are the only two times I can recall that have kind of done that. So it's kind of nice seeing the legacy effect. Again, kind of helps complete things. Again, it's Nick getting closure, getting the okay from his father in a way, which is kind of nice from his parents collectively. So it's a nice passing of the torch moment. Really brief, but yeah. All right.
Okay. All right, Dragon. Let's make a list, check it twice, and find out what stuff in this movie is naughty and nice.
Yeah. All right. Yes.
So I think on the naughty side of things, I feel like they maybe get a little bit too ambitious with expanding the world building.
Well, how so?
Well, just like we said, in terms of like, okay, now there's a secret society of Santa believers and everything like that. I don't know. Just in general, I feel like this movie sort of overcomplicated itself more than it needed to.
All right. Well, okay. Let's see. So again, a lot of these things I'm kind of at war with, so I'm just going to lay it out there because I think they are naughty. But again, I make like an but like kind of like sort of like that. Like there's an amnesia plot. There's an amnesia plot, but it's very well done though, comparatively to the way amnesia plots usually go.
I'll give you that. It's kind of like a pro and con at the same time. It's like
exactly
it's like shoot themselves in the foot, but then they write a very eloquent way to patch up that wound.
Yeah, and here's like one for you here. There are contrivances in this movie, but it's kind of a gimme contrivances. Sometimes you have a gimme contrivance, like the TV broadcast that broadcast everybody that this random man has amnesia and he's in a hospital. Before Buck sees it, and so does Sandy all the way to the North Pole. Little convenient, but again, it's kind of a gimme. And again,
right.
Let's see. So Oh yes, and here's the biggest contrivance of the movie, which again I could make a logic for, but there's still not a lot there to work off of. Is that Nick and Sandy get into their quasi argument, which again I love that it's not really an argument. I love it's just a very pleasant, just kind of like debate of sorts. And Nick basically he kind of his version of storming off and like clearing his head is he puts it travels through the mirror. However, he doesn't quite have a destination, and he ends up at Henry's garage, like Henry's place. Like of all the places he could go, like I guess the logic there is I guess he needs to go there, but he isn't really he's not thinking straight about his destination, so he just kind of goes there because I guess fate needed him to go that way. For again, basically I think with the sorry, if there's a logic, it's that he needs to get to that place where we're at the end of the movie. He needs to get the okay from his father. The only way to do that is to be at the Caribou Club, et cetera, et cetera. And who's the link to the Caribou Club? It's Henry. So again, there's no answer for that. It just seems like he randomly ended up at this place. But again, that's
yeah.
So again, kind of a pro con mix there. So let's see. Sandy meant there's this one scene. As much as I love Sandy, there's only one scene in the movie where I was like, "Come on, that's not Sandy. Why would Sandy do that?" She's a smart character. Where Sandy mentions the Santa stuff to the nurse, and like the nurse is like calling the man in the white coats to get her. It's like, well, of course that's going to happen. Because like, why would you tell her? Like, you just need to tell her, your husband's missing, and that, where's my husband? And of course, like, oh, someone took him out there. All that. But we just kind of. I think we just need to get her out of there in a hurry and just kind of rush that one. Let's see. We forgot the whole fat reindeer payoff. Like, there's no payoff to the reindeer trying to lose weight. We just never addressed that.
Yeah, that was a little bit to me dragging stuff like that where it's just kind of stuff that's in the first act that never gets resolved. That's a big part of why this movie just doesn't resonate with me the same way the original Snow does. Like, it's a fun movie, but it just doesn't have the same solid foundation of the original.
Right. Gustavo, he's kind of a pointless, bumbling obstacle. It's kind of what he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a twat.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's see. Oh yeah, the parents leave really. I feel the parents leave too quick for my taste because I thought they were going to have a dance or something while they're there with Nick and everybody, but then it was like you keep doing what you're doing, son. You're doing a great job. I'm proud of you. Thumbs up from Poppy. Then you just kind of out.
Yeah, like a brief sort of hello, peace out.
I don't know. It's still a nice moment though, but it's just really quick. It's like, okay, well now he's gone. So now they're gone. All right, let's see. I guess lastly, the Ryan adoption's a little out of nowhere for me. I mean, it's nice, but it's just kind of like really they spent at least 2 to 3 days together. So to adopt, the kids
again, like I said, just to give some more promotion to Instant Family. See it this holiday season. It's seriously a great holiday family movie. Instant Family proves that it's like it takes a long time and a lot of effort for an adoption to actually work out.
That's the thing. I mean, again, don't wrong. They're not like taking him in overnight. But what I mean is, like, he just knew the kid for 2 days and he's planning on adopting. That's a little bit of a rush there. I don't know, but I don't know. Maybe it's all seasonal and jolly, and Henry's a good guy. I don't know. It's a little strange. That's all. Okay, let's talk about the nice stuff. So, Kavanaugh charm and basically all the pleasantness, the feel good signature of the first movie. I do feel translated.
Let's just say, like, all three of the leads just do a fantastic job, and their characters are written well. It's kind of natural expansions on the characters. Even the amnesia plot line has its place and it has its reasons for being there.
I do like the city setting. We said like a small town the first movie. Now we're kind of taken into a city. I did like that setting. I like the role reversal with Sandy. Now Sandy's kind of, or for all intents and purposes, kind of leading the narrative, which is nice. We didn't draw too much focus to the kid. I love the Santa pseudoscience. I love we got more of that here. We see, we continue the world building with the North Pole because we didn't see it in the first. We saw like the stable with the reindeers. We never saw the North Pole. We get to see more of that here. Right. More on that. I'll talk about more of that a little later on. It's a Christmas. Here's something interesting about the movie. Because a buddy of mine, I was talking to a buddy of mine recently, We were kind of talking about Christmas. He told me he was burned out on Christmas specials. It was kind of on the whole like Christmas movies as a thing. And I asked him why. He said, yeah, all the plots have been recycled. You've seen one, you see one, you see them all. It's like always the same thing over and over. You know, either Santa Claus saving Christmas or etc. And I got to tell you, I would recommend this movie to him, or at least the Snow franchise to him, because it's a Christmas movie. This in particular, it's a Christmas movie without the obvious Christmas plots. You know, we don't do the obvious stuff here, and I think that's quite refreshing when you really think about it.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely like the draw of the Snow franchise in general, and why Snow got a sequel to begin with. Like one of the few family movies to actually get a sequel, from what I can recall.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, so here's just a little mini one here. I was rewatching again. I had like one of those like, oh my god, it's that moments where I was rewatching it wasn't for a person, it was for a song. See,
okay,
when Sandy is preparing to share the big news with Nick, you know, she's having the dinner who we reveal with Buddy the reindeer. She's talking to him, and as she's doing it, there's a song playing in the background, and it's by it's by Hal David and John Casavas or Kakavas. I can never get that guy's name. I feel so bad. But the point is, those guys. The song is "I Love That Time of the Year," and it's so funny. I knew that song because earlier this year I listened to a song they wrote for a song that song. I never heard it before. I listened to it and it was like I've become so enamored with this song. It's called "Can't Get You Out of My Mind," and it's so darn catchy and I love it. And here's the thing: it's the same song. I knew I recognized that tune, that music, because it's "I can't get you out of my mind." It's like I love this time of the year. It's identical, the same thing. I was like, oh my god! It's like I double checked, like, is it by the same guys? And it was, and it's the same exact song with different lyrics, but holiday lyrics instead. So it was a nice choice of song there. Those guys are they're underrated, but
nice.
All right, and last thing for me is that 40 years later, I think it maintains the magic of the franchise. So it maintains the Snow charm and the magic, which is really rare these days. Like you do a sequel, especially like years after the thing for a sequel no one really asked for, and you get it, and it's like, oh boy, it was consistent with the first one. Nice.
Uh-huh.
All
right. Is chronologically first on the favorite moments roster here.
I think that's you.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, cool. All right, so I will go first. I just really love Patrick Fabian in this movie, so I've kind of got like a Patrick Fabian sandwich, if you will. So I love how he's so smarmy that he's just like, and he's so desperate to win over Sandy's affection that literally the first time he bumps into Sandy in the movie, he callously just grabs an old man and like pretends to help him into the hospital because it's right outside the hospital. And he's like, "All right, call me if you're feeling any better." "Well, I don't have a phone. I don't know your number." "That's great. That's perfect." Oh, and he's just like, then he just runs into Sandy. He's just like, "Oh, I was just, and he has to admit this whole scenario, like the burning car. He pulls him out of the burning car, and but that was no big deal. But what is a big deal is seeing you here.
See that I just love that. This is, if you want to look at a college, this is an excuse to make another Howard Hamlin joke, folks. So forgive me. It's like this is Howard Hamlin's version of a slipping Jimmy Kahn. Pretty much, it's pretty much what this book character is all about. It's like see here, Howard Hamlin's alter ego for his scamming persona is not it's not like it's not slipping Hamlin. It's Buck.
Oh God,
that's his alias. That's his Saul Goodman. It's Buck.
That's right, Jimmy. I am the flamboyant big game hunter, Buck.
And Howard Hamlin usually goes to like a golf club. In this case, he goes to a hunting lodge and he has like a whole different ensemble. Guys, I can't get enough of that Craven the Hunter. You read this and you would know.
I love it.
All right.
Okay, second moment. The tree decorating is really nice, Dragon. I love the how we get into that where Sandy's just like, you know what? I bet you'd be really good at decorating the tree. No, I couldn't. I don't think so. No. Seriously, do it. and and they're all cutesy with each other, and they're placing the star on the top, and it's just the nice, the nice Christmas decorations. It's just classic Christmas stuff. And then they topple onto one another when she falls off the ladder, but he catches her, and it's this is like kind of one of the big moments that recaptures the big pleasantries of the first one. They're just kind of like awkwardly like, oh, I'm okay. Is she okay? I'm okay if she's okay. You know?
I always, again, Tika, you're absolutely right. That's the X factor of the first movie. Like I remember, the thing I love most about Sane is you can see it. You can see the love in that woman's eyes. You can see she has it bad for this guy.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So rarely do you see it like that, and B, it's so genuine and so kind of like, yeah, man, she can't get enough of this guy, which is nice.
And then finally, I love Fabian's demise, where he just, we do him just kind of randomly losing his memories, just like Nick did. And that then internally leads to our, the fanfic that we will never deny ourselves that Buck losing his memory led to Howard Hamlin. And that's why Howard Hamlin now has his Slippy Jimmy equivalent is this Buck persona that he thinks he invented in his own head, but in reality, that's who he actually is.
But it makes a lot more sense than the Malcolm in the Middle thing. Seriously, this one actually could have happened because only 7 years later. This is in 2008, so 7 years. Again, it's Hamlin's own spinoff. If you really think about it. See, the prequel to Howard Hamlin is the Buck Seeger Chronicles. Again, it's the other. No, it's BS. Buck Seeger. It's completely bull, but you'll never know because it's Buck Seeger.
BS.
You just go around with a BS on it.
Oh God.
But no, seriously, like think about it. 7 years he goes to law school and everything, and meets Charles McGill. So we abbreviate things to 7 years, and and there you go.
All right.
But the whole relocation thing for the whole Malcolm in the Middle Walter White thing makes a lot more sense than that. All right. Okay.
What's on your end?
Yes, on my end. So one of my absolute favorite moments in this movie definitely is because you know me, I love world building and pseudoscience with Santa Clauses and the North Pole and the whole how that goes. I do love that. It's Twas Night's always the example I go to, another kind of Cranston-esque little reference there. But no, seriously, I love when Buck he gets transported to the North Pole and he's exploring the place, and he happens upon the Santa bag, and I love the logic of the Santa bag. Where again we see how Nick does it all in one night. We get like a few glimpses of like how he does the Santa Claus thing. And again, I love that for a change. You give just enough information like how he does like all the houses in one night. But you're not really overwhelmed like, well, this makes no sense. If he could still do this, he wouldn't be able to hit like millions and millions of houses. It's like it kind of makes sense where the bag makes copies of things. And basically, that's what Buck kind of discovers. Basically, Nick makes the original toy, like the beta, like the main, like one toy, which basically put in the bag, and you dump out the bag. You have two of them now. It makes copies. It makes many copies of the things. Actually, it makes various copies of the things, which that makes sense. I buy that. Basically, here's the big thing that solves for me that the movie didn't address, and you kind of get a sense of. Again, it's a budget thing, but it's a budget thing that makes sense. We don't have any elves at the North Pole. We don't see who's making the toys, and the logic is we don't need to be all these elves to make toys if he can just make copies with the bag. That's genius.
Yeah.
And of course, in the whole money thing too, where he puts $1 in there and he makes like several, like many dollars. And again, it's a great financial resource as well. And again, Buck basically it's like, okay, I'm going to take this one with me. That's wonderful. And again, it leads to the idea of him stealing Christmas for everybody by stealing this bag and basically monetarily stealing Christmas for himself as well. So again, it's basically on the whole Hamlin, kind of our beloved Howard Hamlin actor Patrick Fabian stealing Christmas delights me to no end. So I can't get it. Okay. All right. So
we've had stealing Christmas. We've had Howard Hamlin stealing Christmas.
Yeah. All right, so
now we need to find a Bob Odenkirk special where he steals Christmas.
Oh God!
Look into the Mr. Archives Dragon.
Yeah. So let's see. So the other moment, I love Nick regaining his memories. This big moment where Nick finally regains his memory, and this to me, I think is again, this is like, well, it's gonna sound like I'm just kissing up the Kavanaugh here, but seriously, if you look at this scene, you can see the guy, you can see the memories coming back to him on his face, and him seeing. Basically, he puts his hand on the mirror, and in doing so, he's kind of basically believing in himself, believing in the magic. Which, by the way, I don't I like that rule for the amnesia that if he doesn't basically none of them just tell him who he is because if he's told that he's Santa Claus, he'll never believe it. If he believes in it, then again, if he naturally believes in it, then of course, then everything will kind of. I don't know. I bought into that logic. You?
Yeah, I'd like to do. It's a nice, simple write-off for the dilemma.
Yeah. And anyway, so he regains his memory because he believes in himself because he kind of has to. Puts his hand on the mirror and he sees all these little flashbacks to he and his parents and kind of learning the Santa trait over the years. He's like looking over the list. Um, you see him like learning how to use the bag, and of course him bonding with Sandy. And again, I just love just Kavanaugh's face throughout this scene here, as he's looking at it. You can see like you can see man processing, and at the end of it, he says, again, it's really on paper, it's really sappy, but he sells it, man. He says, "My name is Nick Snowden. I am Santa Claus." And then, of course, he gives the kid like then goes into this really charming thing where he puts like he tells this kid about Christmas snow, and the idea is like, hey, if you don't find me, if you're never able to find me, he basically the rule of the North Pole is if you're not Santa Claus, you can travel by me or two if you put snow from the North Pole that never melts on the mirror, which again is so cool. I don't know, there's something just some mystical kind of whimsical quality about it. He puts it in his hands, and it's I don't know, it's really nice. I mean, and lastly, just kind of a feel-good moment at the end of the movie. Again, it wasn't a big surprise; it was just kind of nice. Where the movie ends with Nick opening the gift that Sandy had gotten for him, which includes a little Santa suit. It puts two and two together, and it's that. Well, she tells him like that she's pregnant, and you just have this beautiful moment where like a moment of pause goes by, and he says, "Yes." It's so it's so endearing, and it's such a great high of highs. Then the movie, he's gonna become a father, and you have all this other stuff to factor in there. The whole like son become the father arc, but even taking that out, but oh my god, again has this. It ends on a really cheesy gag, but again, it's so genuine, so earnest. You give it a pass. Baby on board was like, oh, she put that on the sleigh, and she was hoping he was gonna see. How cute is that? Like, come on, we're gonna be a family. That's delightful. Yeah.
All right. So I guess the one last thing to ask ourselves, Dragon, is how's it hold up?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were going to say how it holds up first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right, so I tell you, so I think it's a solid sequel, despite a recipe for failure, and it's as likable and fun as the first movie. It's a Christmas movie that's not in your face about the usual kind of stakes or the usual cliches, the usual trappings that you've seen 100 times about movies about Santa Claus. It's I just love how it's a small, intimate affair. You know, it's refreshing. It came back with a story that again it's not like the story you'd imagine they go to, but again, it was quite kind of pleasant and understated. And it's Kavanaugh working his magic against everybody delivering a great performance. It's again, it's not the most amazing thing you've ever seen, but it's so darn comfy and likable. It's kind of it's the cozy Christmas sweater of seasonal shenanigans for me on this one. It's a cozy little Christmas sweater. You know, like oh, it's an ugly sweater, but it's my sweater. You know.
Yeah, I got to admit, just because the amnesia plot line, just in itself, it sort of kind of threw me for a loophole. I'm just like, oh, okay, this is not how I was hoping this movie would go. But talking it through, I'm a little higher on it. I don't think I'm as high on it as you are. I definitely think the original is a better movie, kind of through and through. But this movie's kind of got like the Gremlins 2 effect, where it's like it certainly doesn't have as much harder and endearing nostalgic quality as the original does, but it's trying new things. It's got a fast pace to it. The actors are delivering. And yeah, it's overall it's a solid way to end out the the penultimate episode before we get into our big finale. And I'm happy with it. I wanted to like it a little bit more than I did, but I'm still happy that it exists. And I got to admit, it does kind of give me some ideas for a potential Snow 3. So that's
Hey.
yeah, we'll see, we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
All right.
Well, kids, time to dash away, dash away, dash away all, but as we wave goodbye, don't you cry. We'll be back again next time.
For even more seasonal shenanigans.
La 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 la
La,
la.
la, la.
Yes!